Good evening and welcome to the July 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Barnstable Planning Board here at Barnstable Town Hall. We're at 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. in the James H. Crocker Jr. hearing room located on the second floor, and it is 7:02 p.m. This meeting notice has been previously filed with the town clerk in accordance with Mass General Law. All application materials may be accessed through the Planning Board website or by contacting Karen Pina at karen.pina@town.barnstable.ma.us or calling 508-862-4064. Notice of recording this meeting will be televised live via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via the Government Access Channel live stream or the Town of Barnstable on the Town of Barnstable's website. That's streaming85.townofbarnstable.us/cablecast public site. And I will now call tonight's meeting to order and introduce our board members and staff, starting with Matt.
Matt Tague, good evening.
Michael.
Michael Messinas, good evening.
Bob.
Bob Twist, good evening.
Tim.
Tim O'Neill, good evening.
And staff, Jim.
Good evening, Jim Kupfer, Interim Director, Planning and Development.
And Karen.
Karen Pina, Admin Assistant, Planning and Development.
And my name is Steve Robichaud. Thank you all. Public comment, we'll look for any general public comment this evening not related to an agenda item. Seeing none, we will move to our first item this evening. And Bob, would you like to take this A&R?
I would be delighted. Thomas Hart has submitted an approval not required plan entitled Plan of Land, 121 and 135 Strawberry Hill Road, Centerville, Mass., dated June 11th, 2024. This is not a public hearing. It does not need to be voted to open.
Thank you very much. And with us, we have the applicant's representative, Mr. Ojala. Welcome.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Dan Ojala, I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downkeep Engineering in Yarmouthport, and have got a relatively straightforward matter for you here tonight. Part of the subdivision control law allows you to endorse plans as approval not required if they don't show a subdivision of a property into lots, which would be defined as intended for a building. This particular A&R comes in under the section which is the exception for a division for a conveyance. And the one thing, so we're creating a small parcel for conveyance, and it doesn't create a zoning violation by subtracting required frontage from an abutter. So you can see on the plan here, there's a fairly large piece on the bottom, which we've labeled Lot 2, that would also today contain Parcel A, which is an approximately 6-foot wide strip on the north. The situation here is that the properties above were developed many years ago and were shifted a bit. So there was a long-standing line of occupation, a fence along that where we're creating the new strip. And so that 135 always thought that that was their property, and they've come to an understanding with 121 to convey that over for, I think, just a nominal consideration. Good fences make good neighbors and so forth. And so this one has since been developed a few years back with a house and a garage, and everyone has agreed that this will be the line. So to effectuate that, what we have introduced is a division of this larger parcel into the main Lot 2, which is still over an acre. It's 1.1 acres and has 211 feet of frontage where 150 is required. Actually, you can go down to 20 in this zone. I strike that. And so there's absolutely no zoning violations. It'll help this lot out by letting it have the land that it thought that it enjoyed, and give it a little bit more frontage and a little bit more area on a smaller lot. So net, a nice improvement overall, we think. And again, you can endorse it because it does not show a subdivision. There is always the note that you're not in determining compliance with zoning. That would be the building department in this town. But still, standard practice is if you see an obvious zoning violation, you let the building commissioner know. Here, there's no such situation. We're simply making it a little bit better. So there's a note on the plan under the title block that says this plan has been prepared for the purpose of creating a parcel for conveyance, and that Parcel A is to be combined with Lot 1 and is not a lot as determined by the Mass General Law, the subdivision control law, and is not a building lot as defined by the Barnstable zoning bylaw either. So with that, I think you can safely endorse this plan as approval not required, And Jim did a nice staff report on it, which outlines many of these things. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And as mentioned, we do have a staff report dated July 17th, 2024. Jim, anything you'd like to add on this one?
No, nothing further.
Excellent. We'll go to the board for any questions, comments, concerns. Matt? Michael?
I'm all set, thank you.
Bob?
I'm good, thanks.
Tim?
All set, thank you.
Same here. All looks good. Nice, clean plan. Thank you for the presentation. We'd look for a motion on this, and just a reminder, if with findings, the motion shall read the findings from the staff report.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move to endorse the plan entitled Plan of Land 121 and 135 Strawberry Hill Road, Centerville, Mass., prepared for Thomas Hart, prepared by Down Cape Engineering, Inc., dated June 11th, 2024, as an approval not required plan, subject to the following findings, which are found on page 2 of the staff report dated July 17th. 1, it does not constitute a subdivision because each of the lots have the minimum required frontage on an existing way, having suitable grades and adequate construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic in relation to the proposed use and for the installation of municipal services to serve such use, or has been labeled as not buildable. And 2, all materials and conditions of Chapter 801, Article 4, approval not required plans have been submitted and are in full compliance.
Thank you very much, Bob. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Ojala.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Great evening. Moving along through our agenda. We have no applications for subdivisions this evening. General correspondence, we have a Chapter 91 notice for 279 Nye Neck Road in Centerville. Gans for a maintenance of a dock. Jim, any staff updates for us this week?
Yeah, just real quickly, last week was a busy week. We had a number of meetings with various boards and committees. First off, on my end, had a introductory meeting with the new ad hoc subcommittee for housing strategies. They essentially just nominated their chair and will begin to discuss different strategies in the coming weeks. I plan to present the draft housing production plan in August. In addition to the ad hoc subcommittee for housing, there was the ad hoc subcommittee to reassess regulatory agreements and recently approved zoning. Myself and Chairman Robichaud were present for Friday afternoon presentation on what is a regulatory agreement and reviewing the process and recently approved reg agreements to get the ad hoc committee up to speed, with an understanding that I believe we're coming back this Friday with some more discussions on that. And I did attend the annual meeting of the CPC. I thought it was a good rundown and a good report on where we stand. Chairman, if you had any updates on that as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic meeting. Big conversation about housing. We had a member from the Housing Trust there for a presentation and questions. The presentation was great, and I think that we even discussed the possibility of having that presentation done here at Planning Board. Members, are you open to that?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
great. You know, the PowerPoint exists, might as well get as much as you can out of it, and it was very educational. A lot of questions I had were answered. CPC used to take applications for housing. Instead, we've decided to pass that torch to the trust, and we just give them large sums of money. So, yeah, a lot to talk about on housing. There wasn't really too much other discussions that we had. I think our plan is much improved over the years. Personally, I noted that I wish that there was more progress made with playgrounds and recreation and stuff like that around town. So that's another discussion that we'll continue to have.
Great.
But Jim, if you see another light meeting coming up, see if, remind me, what was her name again?
Jillian Douglas is our Affordable Housing Trust Administrator. She's
Got
great.
it. Yeah, she was great. So she could do that same presentation. We could offer questions and remarks to her. And last thing we should touch on is we have had a working group with the Hyannis Historic Main Street Commission, and we have a draft of the Unified Design Guidelines, and we are going to look to put together another joint meeting with that commission, as we did in the past, which I think would be very useful, talk about those changes, look at the draft. And is that draft ready to go out to planning board members?
Yeah, so I did present this at the Hyannis Historic at their last meeting, or I distributed the draft at the last meeting and asked for some early consideration and feedback. I plan on receiving that feedback by next week, and then I was going to incorporate any suggestions and then divide it out or distribute it out to the planning board for their review as well. And from there, the thought was potentially doing another joint meeting of the group, if that's okay with everyone.
Works for me. Get initial comments from them, get it to us, get comments from us, and then bring the two groups together to see if we can get that finalized. Obviously, I know it's critical for all of us to have unified guidelines going forward.
Awesome.
And if that works out, then I think that the chair of that committee and myself might make a presentation to town council regarding the changes that have been made. Again, these are our guidelines, right? So it's not something that we need to have town council put their stamp of approval on. Once we approve it, it's ours. It's moving forward. So that's it. Any questions, comments about staff update?
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
I think the one question I just had, Jim, was remind me where the Marsh's Mills Elementary School stood?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I did give a brief update to town council this past Thursday regarding that process. Where we stand now is we collected all the public information this past spring. The deadline for that was mid-June. We've met with our consulting engineer, BSC, who's doing concepts for us. So we've procured them to develop out at least 3 kind of conceptual designs for what could go there, footprints of buildings or, locations of fields, roadways, parking, et cetera, everything we heard from the public. And the idea is to develop at least 3 concepts and present them to town council and the public in the early September for feedback, with the idea of refining, hopefully down to 1 that we can bring back this winter for approval by the council.
Great, thank you.
Good stuff. Anything else? Look for a motion to approve our draft minutes from July 8, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the draft minutes of July 8th, 2024.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael. All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye, so those are approved. Future meeting, next meeting, August 12th, 2024, at 7 p.m. Anything before we adjourn? Okay, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. And all those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.